Ace Attorney has many types of characters. We have our protagonists, sidekicks, prosecutors, goofy one-off characters, and we also have the villains. Now for today, we will just talk about the original trilogy to make the video as inclusive as possible. So here's my warning, spoilers for the OG trilogy. If you have not played past the first 3 games, you are welcome to stay, because as you can see from the title, we are going to talk about Dahlia Hawthorne and why I find her to be one of the best Ace Attorney villains. Dahlia Hawthorne is the main villain of the 3rd game. She is a huge antagonistic force for 3 of the cases in the game and is a very popular character in the fanbase. She manipulates everyone around her. She's responsible for the deaths of a few characters, she has haunted the past of Phoenix and Mia, and it doesn't even end there. Even after death, she creates havoc. But I'll tell you this right now, to me, this is not what makes Dahlia the best. To look at why Dahlia is so interesting, we have to look at the concepts of nature and nurture. So where are we going to start? Well, let's just slide past turnabout memories and turnabout beginnings. If we look at those cases, I'd say Dahlia is good, but not anything special. Her character trope is something you see a lot. It's the innocent looking girl who is able to deceive everyone. But what makes her the best Ace Attorney villain is Bridge to the Turnabout. And the first thing I want to touch on is Dahlia's motive. In Case 1 and 4, Dahlia's motives are kind of bland. Case 1 is a cover up to her crime in Case 4, and in Case 4, she steals a jewel from her dad, so it seems like she wants money. However, this all changes in Bridge to the Turnabout. We learn that Dahlia's father was a jeweler and also a terrible person. He married Morgan Fay because the eldest daughter of the Fays became the powerful headmaster of the Fay clan. Essentially, the jeweler wanted to marry her for power, but this plan went downhill fast. It became apparent that Morgan Fay's spiritual power was weak, and her younger sister, Misty Fay, became the master instead. As a result, Morgan's family became the Branch family. You can think of the Branch family as the inferior lineage, and once the jeweler heard about this, he divorced Morgan and took Dahlia and Iris with him. Now, here's an interesting detail. At a young age, Dahlia convinced her father to leave Iris at Hazakura Temple because she found Iris to be a nuisance. This further shows how horrible their father is. The guy literally gives off his child to the temple, but it also shows us that Dahlia was a great manipulator from a young age and quite evil as well. However, as time went by, Dahlia began to hate her father a lot, and there is the explanation for her motive in Case 4. She didn't steal the jewel for money. She stole the jewel to get revenge on her dad. But it doesn't end there, because Iris says something very interesting. She says that if Dahlia came to Hazakura Temple with her, she wouldn't have turned to crime. She would be raised properly by the kind sister Bikini. And it got me thinking, what if the sisters swapped places? What if Dahlia was the one who went to Hazakura Temple? And what if Iris was the one who was left with her father? Would Iris end up worse than Dahlia? It got me thinking how much of this is nature versus nurture. I'm going to be honest, initially this video was going to be a little different. I misremembered a key detail of the case. I thought the decision of Iris being sent to the temple was random. As in, the jeweler just chose one of his kids to send away and didn't really care which one it was. In this case, Dahlia being the evil twin would have come down to a coin toss. Because think about it, you have 2 twins, which means genetically, you would think that they're similar, and they were both raised in the same environment. So now, this split between Hazakura Temple or staying with dad becomes the point where their personalities and actions drastically differ. I thought about that and it kind of blew my mind, because if we were to believe this theory, in a different universe, Iris might be the evil one. Iris might be the one committing several crimes while Dahlia lives a peaceful life in the temple. Think about that. The very person Phoenix loved in Iris could have been a mass murderer. But we have to stick to the facts, and the fact is, Dahlia was the one who told her dad to send Iris to the temple. It's clear that Dahlia developed these evil traits earlier, so we have to dig even deeper. What does this mean for the twins? Was Dahlia born to be more evil? Well, perhaps, but if she was, there's nothing she could do about that because she was born that way. Even the game itself describes her as the embodiment of evil. They constantly refer to her as a demon or a devil, terms used to refer to evil spirits that are evil for the sake of being evil. And this ties into a theme in Bridge to the Turnabout: destiny. The concept of destiny is brought up a few times during this case. It's actually first brought up in the intro cutscene. The narrator talks about the green sword. Sorry if I butcher this pronunciation, but the Shishishido is supposed to represent life itself. The sword has many branches representing the limitless choices people can make during their lives. However, the sword comes to one end. Despite all those choices you can make, there is one way your life ends, and that is your destined path. The implacability of fate is finally laid bare. Implacability means not capable of being changed. So in other words, you can't change fate. We return to this idea of destiny when Mia faces off against Dahlia. As Mia is about to banish her to the Shadow Realm, she tells her that this is just fate. In front of Dahlia's face, Mia says it is destined that she beats Dahlia. It is destined that Dahlia is a loser. And she's not that wrong, because Dahlia is a big loser. All of Dahlia's plans failed monumentally, and she couldn't even get a win after death. It's even more peak when you realize Mia is a part of the Master family, and Dahlia is in the Branch family. Dahlia was born to the side of the clan with no powers, and if you think about it from both a nature and nurture perspective, Dahlia's whole life was ruined because of this Fae clan system. This power system is based on spiritual power you are born with, which is the nature side of things, and then people in Dahlia's life who are obsessed with this power made her life a misery. If you look at Mia versus Dahlia from this perspective, it's a little eye-opening. The daughter from the powerful family had no bad energy around her because she was born to power. The daughter from the Branch family had tons of problems around her because she was not born to power. In the end, look where they both end up. They both end up dead in their 20s. Okay. But okay, seriously. One lived a happy life with meaningful relationships, while the other suffered in greed and selfishness. The other daughter born to power, Maya Faye, is one of the happiest people ever, and even Pearl Faye, who is not the Master's daughter, at least had Maya in her life to guide her. And get this, Pearl Faye had a lot of spiritual power. I don't know if Morgan would have treated Pearl as kindly as she did if Pearl didn't have the power. And at this point, I want to bring up an essay about Dahlia's character. If you're very involved in the Ace Attorney fanbase, you may have seen this post yourself. It was sent to me by Seglon, a common viewer of mine. I don't know if I pronounced the username correctly. I'm very sorry if I butchered that, but the author of the post goes by the name Metal Cicada. It goes into a lot more detail about Dahlia's character than I do in this video, but one of the main points is the black and white portrayal of Dahlia. Our main cast, who grew up in much better environments, are painted as the heroes, while Dahlia is painted as the spawn of the devil. The main cast do not try to understand Dahlia's story in any way, and instead see her as a demonic creature. This is completely different to characters in the past like Yanni Yogi or Acro, where there is sympathy and at least the acknowledgement that these people are human. But this is exactly what I like. I think this is perfect because think about it. From the perspective of our main characters, why should they try understanding Dahlia? Let's look at it from the eyes of Mia. In her first meeting with Dahlia, she figures out that Dahlia killed Valerie and basically killed Terry as well. She also knows that Dahlia is the one who poisoned her boyfriend, Diego Armando, or as we know him for the rest of the game, Gato. Then, in their second meeting, she kills Doug Swallow and tries to manipulate Phoenix to take the fall. And then, in their last meeting after death, Dahlia is trying to kill Maya. It's not hard to see why Mia thinks Dahlia is the root of all evil. I mean, she doesn't even get a clear picture of her motivations anyway, so again, why would she care? Gato's life was directly ruined because of Dahlia, so it's easy to see why he hates her. Most of the other characters are just scared of her because she's trying to kill everyone, and then Phoenix is the only one that held some hope that she was good, but after seeing and learning about everything that she did, even he had no reason to understand any of her actions. What I will agree with is that Mia is a bit too hard on Dahlia in Turnabout Beginnings, because that is the first time they meet, and she's already calling her words like demon and stuff, so that doesn't really make sense to me. But especially in the future cases, it makes so much sense why Mia can't stand Dahlia and basically sees her as this devil. So with all this being laid out, there's only two people that sympathize with Dahlia. The first person is Iris because they grew up together, and the second person is Dahlia herself. That's right. In the guise of Iris, Dahlia tells us about her backstory and how hard of a life she had. Is she simply doing this because she has to act like Iris? Maybe, but it could also be that she can't open up to people as Dahlia Hawthorne. She can't communicate her true feelings as herself. I guess we'll never know, but the main point is this. I think the feelings towards Dahlia make sense. Yes, the presentation of Dahlia versus the main cast is black and white, but it is how you'd expect the dynamic to be. Think about if Dahlia was a real person. Do you think anyone would care what her backstory is? No, we look at her crimes and we'd say she's a bad person and we wouldn't care to understand her past. To the majority, it's unjustifiable behavior no matter what. A crime is a crime. And this is where I want to introduce an interesting idea. Let's say Dahlia was already born somewhat evil. Well, she can't really control that. You can't change the genetic traits you have. And then let's say the rest of her evilness was completed by her bad environment. Again, something you can't change that much, especially when you are a young child. Your life is controlled by the people around you. Essentially, Dahlia had no control over herself turning evil. Now, I know what you're gonna say. That's a load of BS. Dahlia has free will. She has full control over whether she wants to kill someone or not. And that is where I want to introduce the concept of determinism. Determinism is the idea that all the choices you make in the present and the future are determined by your past. Every action, conversation, and situation lead up to you being the person you are today. So, let's talk about Dahlia deciding to kill Doug Swallow as an example. Her decision to do that was already influenced by her entire past up to this point. There is no free will because all her past experiences naturally led to her killing Doug Swallow. And this ties back to the intro cutscene with the concept of destiny. I'm not sure if Shu Takumi is telling us that he sees the world as deterministic or if that's just the ideology of the Fae clan, but I can say that this is something that I've thought of for many years now. And in fact, determinism makes more sense to me than having free will. You are who you are because of your past. It just makes more sense to me than this free will that we can tap into whenever we want to make a choice. And if we want to look at the world from a deterministic standpoint, then everyone's outcome in life is based on luck. Dahlia became the failure that she was because of all her past experiences that she had no control over, and someone like Phoenix became a successful lawyer because of his past experiences that he had no control over. You can apply it to the real world as well. Successful, happy people were born lucky, and people in prisons or people that are unhappy for whatever reason are born unlucky. Just like the Shishishido, your life path is set from the moment you're born. Now, what am I trying to say? Am I saying that life is this depressing lottery where we have no control over anything? No, I'm not saying determinism is a fact. It's just a plausible theory that makes sense to me. I hope determinism is not real, and I don't live my life with the mindset that my end path is fixed, but I think determinism could very well be the harsh truth, and Bridge to the Turnabout might agree. But we're not done yet, because there's one more thing I want to talk about. In Case 2 of JFA, Mia has Cyclops at the end of Investigation Day 1. You're probably wondering how we got here. Well, Mia Fey over here didn't want to expose her aunt's bad actions. Take in that she knows Maya's on trial. She knows that Morgan Fey is committing a crime, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to protect my aunt. So Mia decides to protect a person that tries to get her little sister arrested. And by the way, this same Morgan Fey is the mastermind for the plan to kill your sister a year later. And this same Morgan Fey is the person who raised a child that killed and hurt many. I think this demonstrates another point. Dahlia didn't have connections. Morgan gets some love from her main heroes like Mia, Pearl, and even Maya to some extent. This is because they grew up knowing Morgan. Dahlia was separated from the rest of them very early on, meaning they don't have that connection. And I'm gonna say it again, it's just peak because Morgan shares responsibility for how Dahlia turned out, but it doesn't matter. These Fae girls had their good times with Morgan and had no time with Dahlia. This is why I like Dahlia so much. Everything surrounding her character made me think about so many things that I was just fascinated by her role in the game. She's easily one of my favorite villains in the series. I know I kept saying my favorite, but it is a little hard to pick. She might be my number one, but if not, definitely at least top 3. So that's all I had to say. Don't live your life thinking everything is destined, but what do you guys think about Dahlia? And what do you think Bridge to the Turnabout is telling us with this concept of destiny? I am interested to know, so comment down below. Take it easy, and goodbye.